What is going on YouTube? Heir of Carthage here with the next part of my 20K subscriber marathon videos celebration fantastic. Okay, I'll quit. You can see all the players here. I believe this was, I don't remember who this one was submitted by, but obviously it was one of these people. I have to go look in the email and get it on there. But in any case, we've got a 3v3 on the Arid Cliffs. But hey, if I don't know who submitted it, then I don't know who wins. I have not watched this replay yet, and I wanted to do one of these for you where I don't watch a replay, I just bring it to you. I was told this is epic, so we will see if indeed it turns out to be epic. This is an interesting map because there's a crap load of choke points. And this is going to be a lot of men on a map where things are going to get really bottled up, so I would expect that we're going to see some pretty good carnage here. Considering that we're standing right behind this Prussian player right here, I would assume this is the person who submitted. So when we look, we'll see what it says on the results screen. Looks like we got 2 Prussia and a France on this side. Let's do a quick rundown of the armies as best we can. There's a crap load of units, and I don't want to bore you with going through all of them. Looks like musketeers, some foot guards mixed in there, quite a few foot guards. Looks like a number of Prussian Fusilier up front, possibly up to 5. Landwehr, this is a militia. They're obviously playing some meat shield tactics. Got just a regular general staff out there, so no legendary general. Lancers, Cuirassier, Lancers. Let's take a look at this next Prussian army. Looks like they got some Silesian Schutzen and Jaegers. I would not have brought those units on this map just because getting the full range out of those units on a map with this much terrain is probably going to be difficult. Typically the 100 range skirmishers are better in almost every setting on Napoleon. The 120 range skirmishers really weren't very good in this game, unfortunately. I thought that was kind of a bum deal, but that's just the way it was. This player's also got a lot of musketeers. I do not see any foot guards in this one. He's got some hussars. He's probably spent more money on his skirmishers. I do see 1 unit of grenadiers. Let's take a look at the French player. Let's see, Fusiliers. He's got some Voltigeurs, some Cheshire, Old Guard. Wow, he's got a Young Guard, Guard Seaman, Young Guard, and 2 Old Guard. So the French player is supporting some extremely deadly infantry, along with a Dutch Guard Lancer, also an extremely good unit, and an Empress Dragoons, which is also a very good unit. So he's got some hero units here in his army, so some very tough units indeed. It looks like his skirmishing force, though, isn't all that great. Let's go see who we're playing against. Looks like we got a Prussia, a Britain, and an Austria on the other side here, so this will be interesting. Austria, of course, probably has some of the weakest line infantry, and their skirmishers aren't really that great either. It just doesn't seem like Austria was really up to snuff in Napoleon Total War, but I have seen them used successfully, so just because I'm no good with them, I guess doesn't mean that they're not a good faction, and I still like to play with them sometimes. So it looks like we got the Prussian here's got several units of Lancers and Hussars pushing up the hill. It's going to be hard to see all their forces here. 8th Life Regiment, so got some Jaegers, Musketeers. Looks like a pretty similar build to what we were seeing on the other side, except he's got some foot guards and a life regiment in there. So looks like most of the people so far are bringing some elite infantry, which is usually a good idea to have a unit or 2 of them in your army. I see a King's German Legion, Highland Foot, so they got some Highlanders in there. Some rifles and light infantry mixed in there, or Lightfoot as they're called on here. So looks like quite a few skirmishers. And then he's got quite a lot of cav back here as well. And I'm guessing this was a no artillery match. Light dragoons, dragoons. Now the British cav I don't much like. They do have fantastic heavy cav, but I just don't much like heavy cav in this game. Oh look, the Prussian player over here is going to charge down and pin up all these Austrian troops in this bottleneck. The Austrian does not go into square, I don't believe. The Austrian's just running away, and these Prussian cavalry are going to have a field day with this mess. Heavy cavalry will absolutely eat up infantry in this game. I can't believe he didn't go into squares. Although if he had gone into squares, he would have started getting shot too. That was a terrible position for the Austrian to be in. They're now in a terrible position down here too as far as terrain goes. And they're at a high risk of being completely destroyed by the units up there. Looks like we have a bunch of German Fusiliers there, a whole bunch of, and then some Hungarian Fusiliers as well. Hungarian Fusiliers are better statistically. The German Fusiliers are a little cheaper. Let's see. I do hear some Windbush Jaegers firing, though. And it looks like they are still hidden while firing. Or that might have been the Landwehr. Yep, there's the Windbush Jaegers. I thought I heard them. So Windbush Jaeger is a very expensive unit. They're fun to use, but I have to kind of question their viability on this game, even though I have used them. Just because there ends up being, they don't have enough ammo to get the job done, even if you do manage to keep them alive with the low numbers. Here comes a Prussian cav charge. Will he get there before the, or no, this is a Landwehr, so this is a meat shield rush. So he's going to pin down the Austrian units with the meat shield. He does not have any units in the vicinity to capitalize on that, though, so I'm not really sure what that was all about. It looks like the British player has pushed up on top and has a split going on between the Prussian forces. That could be dangerous. So we have two Prussian players over here, or the one Prussian player and the French ganging up on the enemy Prussian player. I know this is going to get hard to follow because we got a Prussia versus Prussia right here. But we can see that there's a big matchup going there, and it looks like the Prussian player over here is going to get 2v1'd, which is very bad. So he's probably going to get destroyed. So even though the British player over here can help 2v1 this Prussian player, now it really becomes a race to see which group can knock out one player quicker so that they can start to overwhelm the others. And it looks like the Austrian's going to be getting absolutely shredded by these Prussian Fusiliers that are up here on the hill. He should probably pull out of that fight as soon as he can. So yeah, that's going to be that's definitely a huge terrain disadvantage right there. I don't know what's going to happen though yet. This British player is not making an aggressive push on the flank of the Prussian though, and that is not good because over here the Prussian player of the I'm trying to even remember who's who on the minimap now. So I'm guessing these guys are all blue on the minimap. So yeah, the Prussian player of the blue team is getting absolutely flogged, and the British player is moving up reinforcements, but moving up some of them behind the Prussian troops when really he ought to be pushing this flank and pushing this flank. So the British player could be putting a flanking maneuver on two people at once. The problem is that France is all the way to the outside of the Prussian over here, and France is moving up quite slowly. And probably taking a lot of losses, to be quite honest, because these Chasseurs and Voltigeurs are squaring off with a foot guard who's got some pretty good terrain cover, and these foot guards are going to be able to put down a lot of pain. So you can see this map has a whole lot of terrain, and so positioning of your troops is important. So the French player is in a good position to completely outflank, but the Prussian player is doing a pretty good job of just holding them up with what minimal forces he has to spare. So I have to admit that the Prussian player on the blue team is doing a pretty phenomenal job of holding the line for as long as he has. I would have expected him to have almost been steamrollered out of the game by this point. I would say the worst loss right now that's going on over here is the Austrian is taking some pretty copious losses to the Prussian player, who has absolutely superior position in this particular vicinity. There are some Hungarian grenadiers here, but it doesn't look like they can get within grenade range. And you can also tell that this is a large setting, so we have large unit sizes, so this ought to be pretty epic. And Napoleon affords us some pretty sweet graphics and everything too, so that'll all be pretty nice. There's the German grenadiers firing back. Like I said, you can see the terrain advantage here is pretty substantial for the Prussian player, and he's got musketeers behind them as well. Let's see if the British player has forced any moves. Oh, he got charged by cav from the Prussian player. Looks like he did not get into squares. And this Highland Foot, though, is a pretty tough unit. I'll bet it can fight off these Lancers, even though it didn't get into a square. The Highland Foot is one of the better units in melee. So there you go. Got some Highland pride going on there. Then you just got a regular unit of British Foot down here that'll probably take quite a few more losses to the Prussian cav than the Highland Foot did. Yeah, you can see the Highland Foot didn't take many losses at all. But again, the British player not putting much of a push onto the Prussian, and now he's taking a whole bunch of lead from the Prussian Fusilier here. He is outranged, I believe. In this particular vicinity, I don't think he has any skirmishers. So let's see what's going on over here. The British player is putting some pressure on the flank of the red Prussian. The blue Prussian is still alive, but and the British player is going to reinforce him with some cavs. So this fight is still very much up in the air. We do have a general staff here, though, being attacked, and if it's killed by these Empress Dragoons, that could be a big danger for the Prussian. Losing your general can start to cause some rout, but no, the Empress Dragoons being faced off with enemy infantry there do rout. So the French player is taking a lot of losses at the hands of this at the Prussian player on the blue team. Again, I know this is confusing because these two Prussian players right here are on opposing teams. Kind of hard to tell from this view, but again, on the mini-map, you've got one Prussian on the blue team and two of them on the red team. The French player is also on the red team, British player on the blue team, just to clarify. So right now, the fight is almost looking like it's going in favor. Oh, that's hard to say. I mean, it's pretty even, and if you look here, it's pretty even on the power meter. The Austrian player, although taking a lot of losses, is now moving around the side of this hill to try and make his way up. And the Austrian player doesn't have many more troops in this vicinity, though, so I'm assuming the Prussian player is going to have to shift some of his troops to face the back of the hill. Here comes a horde of Austrian cav. Looks like Hungarian hussars. Not a real great unit. There's some cuirassiers in there, though. Several units of cuirassiers, probably 3 or 4. This is a lot of cavalry. However, if the Prussian is able to form squares, they should be able to easily fend off all this cavalry as it's charging uphill. Let's see if he gets a square formed. Looks like he does get a square formed at the last second. The Austrian player needs to start shifting his cav now away from the square and on into other parts of the Prussian formation to disrupt. There is Prussian cuirassier coming down into the fight and lancers. With that square right there, though, I'm imagining that this fight is going to go poorly for the Austrians. Their units are tired, charging uphill, and there's not much infantry. I do think that that is going to be the end of the Austrians' army for the most part, as they're going to be in rough shape now. There is a bit of a fight going now between the British player and the Prussian here. However, it looks like the British player is standing here just taking shots from the Prussian Fusilier. Not a good thing. You can see these Prussian Fusiliers outrange the British player here, and if I zoom in, you can see these guys just sitting there taking fire from a distance. There it goes. There's too many players on here for me to leave it zoomed in for too long. Yeah, the British player, though, putting some serious pressure over here on the flank of the red Prussian in this vicinity. So the blue Prussian's still alive, but just barely. It looks like he's doing some last-ditch bayonet charges here. I see some musketeers charging in against some other musketeers. I see a cav charge coming in here from Great Britain, but it is fended off by a last-minute square, well-placed square. If that light dragoons are going to get heavily damaged, because even if they pull out, the square is going to shoot them. So it looks like some desperation efforts here on the part of the blue team as the red team really starts to overwhelm them. It looks like the Prussian player on the blue team, though, I got to give him props for holding out for as long as he did. It was pretty outstanding. Here's an 8th Life Regiment facing off against the 18th Regiment de Infanterie, which is the Brave. This Life Regiment now forming a square for some reason. I would have just left them there firing in their line because I think they would have been more effective. Oh, but they've got Old Guard, or sorry, a Young Guard unit right here moving up on them, so this is going to turn into a dangerous situation. Even though that's a Life Guard regiment, I don't think they can hold out against all the French forces in this vicinity. The British player has some cav back here still, but probably not enough to be able to take out all this French infantry.
Sir, our general is under attack.
So here are some more desperation efforts on the part of the British player to help knock out the red Prussian player in this vicinity. He charges in his Highland Foot, a very capable unit in melee, and here they are attacking this Prussian square. I don't know how much that square is going to really affect melee. I know that it was quite effective on Empire Total War sometimes, not so sure about Napoleon. Let's look back over here. The Austrian player is still alive and kicking, and the Prussian player on this side is also pretty heavily damaged, so that's going to be interesting. I do think the Austrian has the capability to actually finish off the Prussian player over here. Whether or not they do it is another question, because that Prussian is split between the British forces and the Austrian. The British forces here are not doing well, though, and if they get knocked out soon, this Prussian will be able to recommit his units and then pincer the Austrians who are now coming through that choke point. A lot of terrain on this map. It makes firing positions difficult. Looks like over here the British player is actually going to collapse what's left of the Prussian, the red Prussian here. I know that that's may get somewhat confusing. We've got another melee charge going on here. This is the King's German Legion charging into these Prussian musketeers. However, the French player, though, looks like he is going to completely break through and be able to start putting pressure. So there's a lot of Pyrrhic victories going on in certain areas, and this is a bloody battle for both sides right now. I do see quite a lot of French troops, though, being able to move into that vicinity. It looks like slowly the French player is moving up. but I do believe the British player is going to knock out most of the Prussian units in this vicinity and then have to retreat. Looks like he did end up getting steamrolled over here by the Prussian, which is what I expected. This foot guard unit right here is a danger indeed. Those Highland foot are a good unit, but look, they're getting shot in the back by foot guards, and it's only a matter of time before these guys rout. So, as tough as they are, they're fighting foot guards in the front and getting shot by foot guards in the back. That is just a tough position. They can't really be expected to last long in that position. The Austrian blobbed his troops up real bad and is charging up this choke point into melee. Probably not the best idea. Some of his troops are firing though, so over here he's in a shootout. But here comes some musketeers on a downhill melee, or I thought they were going to melee. Nope, they're going to stop and shoot. A downhill melee charge would have been pretty effective here. Well, maybe. These musketeers are tired, so maybe not. But with that downhill advantage, a melee charge might have quickly knocked them out. It's too bad these Hungarian grenadiers aren't in a good position, because those could have made a big difference in this particular case. So it looks like the Austrian in pretty rough shape here. This unit of foot guards with that kind of height advantage could hold off against a lot of these Hungarian Fusiliers, Landwehr, German Fusiliers. All these units are going to get pretty outmatched by foot guards. Is this going to be a melee charge? It is. Here comes a pretty nice melee charge from the Prussian. Going to keep the Austrians bottled up. So even though the Austrian had a big numbers advantage, he's getting bottled up badly by the Prussian to where his units are less effective. And over here they're getting outflanked and shot up. They're in a bad position. So I believe the Prussian on every front is going to be able to repel this Austrian attack, even with much lower numbers of men. The Austrian just had really terrible terrain positioning. So that is definitely going to turn bad for the Austrian. The British player is now surrounded. Very few troops left. He's got a Prussian on one side and then the French player on the other side. So yeah, a little bit of skirmishing still going on over here. Not sure what those guys are shooting at routing units. The last part of the fight really is right here. You can see the Austrian, his troops just basically fleeing from the battle en masse. This is what happens whenever your troops are tired and you run them into a choke point where they can easily be fended off by an elite unit. And those elite units, whenever they get people into a choke point, they will just absolutely massacre them. I don't know if you all remember my Battle of Many Frances, where I think I had like 2 units of foot guard hold off 5 or 6 units of infantry in a choke point. So never underestimate those elite units when you get them into a choke point, especially if it's like a foot guard, a life guard, or for heaven's sake, the old guard. That would be even worse. So some of the Austrian units regain their courage, go charging back up in the hill. Apparently, they didn't learn their lesson the first time, and they go back to the Prussian school of pain and suffering for a refresher lesson on why they routed in the first place. I don't really see where this is going, but it's pretty epic. We'll watch these Austrians duke it out with the Prussians there. You know, Napoleon, I don't like the mechanics of it as much as I like Empire Total War, but I have to give Napoleon Total War props for being a game that was having really epic effects. It really gives a grand scale to the sense of a lot of these battles, especially in these big team battles. And also, you know, the games are a little quicker sometimes than Empire Total War, which I like. I just didn't really like the mechanics of the artillery in this game, and the mechanics of the light infantry. Otherwise, this game was pretty fun, so I'm not trying to trash it. I just liked Empire a little better. You can see those Prussian troops just absolutely massacring these poor Austrian troops who are in a terrible position. Big old blob of them. Those foot guards are immensely better in melee combat than any of these Austrian troops. Now, the Hungarian Fusiliers are pretty good troops. But the problem for the Austrians is they don't really have a whole lot of elite units. I believe they have Archduke Charles Legion and the Emperor's own regiment or something like that. There may be some other elite units, but the Austrians do lack elite units, whereas, you know, like the French have the Old Guard, the Young Guard, Guard Seamen, Prussians have foot guards, the Russians have life guards, the Swedes have life guards, so the Austrians definitely lack in that department. But their units are cheap, and you can generally afford quite a few of them. So, wow, these Austrians really lasted a lot longer than I thought. So they must really be enjoying the Prussian school of pain, suffering, and despair. There goes some of the last of them routing. Looks like we've got a Landwehr unit here that I don't expect that to last long. Landwehr, I believe, is kind of a skirmisher unit or militia unit. No, it's a militia unit, my bad. Yeah, Landwehr is a militia unit. I believe here comes the Austrian general staff. The last-ditch effort. Apparently, he wants to find out why his men are enjoying the school so much, and so he's going to come take a lesson of his own. And I believe that was the Austrian general dying. A few more last pockets of resistance going on here. Here's some German Fusiliers getting cut to pieces by that guy on the ground getting stabbed. I love some of the animations in this game. It's pretty sweet. I wish the Napoleon would have had a little bit of blood effects on it. That would have been cool. I'm sure there's a blood mod out there. I haven't downloaded it. Just because the effects on Napoleon Total War are pretty good, and it doesn't make me want to go out and download a mod as quickly as I might want to download one for Empire, where the effects were pretty lacking. So it looks like the red team ended up dominating that battle in the end. So the blue team, the lesson to be learned here from the blue team is that they took poor terrain positions, and that's what ended up costing them the battle. We got some French troops going into a desperate melee charge here just for fun. That's my kind of thing, man. There's nothing that I love more than the insane melee charges at the end of an Empire or Napoleon battle. You just send everybody into melee. That's like my favorite thing. I used to call it ending the Empire battle in Rome fashion. These Highlander foot, of course, an appropriate unit to see here at the end of the battle. I think they are now finally routing. Yeah, they're shattered. And it looks like the one last unit of British foot just shattered as well. So that's going to be the end of the game. Fun replay there. A lot of stuff going on. I love these big team battles on Napoleon. So there you can see the victors. I'm not sure who the submitter was, but I don't know. It started me behind one of these Prussian players, so I'm guessing it was either Mr. War or Avon Beef Wellington. You can see the number of enemies killed here. Beef Wellington absolutely cleaned house. But like I said, I had to give props to the Prussian player on the blue team. Look at the number of kills. He was outflanked, keep in mind, and he racked up almost 2,000 kills. The Austrian player right here was the weakest link, and I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm just, taking an honest tactical analysis of that. He got himself into a position that he shouldn't have. So let's take a look at some of these units here. Whoa, 450 kills for that foot guard unit. Good gravy. This is exactly what I was talking about. Do not let your guys get bottlenecked against these elite units. Look how many kills these foot guards accounted for. Unbelievable. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you're enjoying the series so far. Coming up soon will be some more Empire Total War. Like I said, please submit me some more Empire Total War footage. Send it to heirtotalwar@gmail.com. I need some more Empire Total War footage to choose from. I have a ton of Shogun 2 Total War footage. And then once we finish the 20th celebration videos, then I will move on and start making a weekly appearance of the show. I'm not really sure what I'm going to call it yet, but it'll be something to the order of, like Heir's Tactical Analysis, or, blah, blah. You can suggest me a name. I haven't decided on the name yet. And that show will be me analyzing viewer-submitted replays and then also allowing the audience to give their opinion on those replays so that hopefully we can help you become a better player by being able to analyze in a constructive way the replays that we receive from my fans. I will, of course, continue to play battles online and campaign, so this is just a new feature that I want to add to my channel. My cell phone is ringing, and it sounds like it is time for me to get back to work. Heir of Carthage, signing off for now.